Hello and good morning and welcome to what day is it today? Wednesday. It's Wednesday. Oh my gosh, I'm having such a great week. It's so good to see you guys. Thank you so much for being here with me. Karen, welcome back. Hannah, Nikki, welcome back. Who's missing? I think Anna's missing. Anna, if you're watching the replay, we miss you. Okay, guys, so thank you so much for being here. We are talking this week about opposing mindsets. This is all in the run-up to my event, which is coming up on the 19th of August. I've just got to tell you about this. If you don't have your free ticket yet, go to virtualmissfriday.com/TVAD. If you're watching the replay on this on YouTube, it will be in the description below. And in this, we're talking about working online, but it's also about using your mindset as well to create a successful business. So we've got a lot of practical in there. We've also got a lot of mindset stuff in there. So do definitely check that out, virtualmissfriday.com/TVAD. So what we are talking about this week is opposing mindsets. It's when we have I guess, like figuring out the differences between what if I thought this way and what if I thought this way. So we've talked about, like yesterday, we talked about fear and trust, which are opposing. And it's almost like, when you can't, like I said yesterday, you can't have opposing mindsets that work well together alongside each other. You can have conflicting mindsets in a way that where you use negative feelings as a filter, but you don't onboard them. And we'll talk about this a little bit today, but we talked about fear and trust. We've talked about the protection and abundance mindset. And today we're talking about the glass half full. We also talked about spending time to save money or spending money to save time. But today we're talking about half full, half empty. This is the simplest version. I think this is kind of like the kindergarten version or the nursery school version of this topic of opposing mindsets. But we have our glass half full people and we have our glass half empty people. So when situations arise in our lives, our autopilot will tell us whether we're glass half full or half empty people. I'm definitely a half full person. I'm definitely, if anything arises in my world that I think, oh, that's not something I want, or that's not good, obviously I'm going to acknowledge that I'm feeling that, but then I'm constantly immediately switching into the mode of, so this must have happened for a reason. So now I'm curious about why this happened, and what's the, like what good is going to come out of this and things like that. And so many times we can go on autopilot and something bad has happened. And that means, there's a reason behind it, a bad reason behind it. And then that leads to just a constant state of worry, anxiety, stress, and it consumes us. And I'm sure we've all been there where something bad has happened and we can't get it out of our head. And that is one thing, and I'm not saying that you have to control your thoughts or something like that, but just know when you've got those things and you can't get them out of your head, that is serious manifestation technique happening right there. That's high-powered, powerful manifestation. So when you are in that state where something bad has happened, you don't want to suddenly feel happy about it when it's not good, but you also really don't want to obsess over it as well, because all you're going to do is amplify it and create more of it and make the situation worse for yourself. And I really thought, like when I'm in that stress, worry, anxiety kind of mode, like I had this revelation one day, like I'm not actually gaining anything from this. Like I can sit there and be stressed and worried and cause myself all kind of conflict and cause myself all kinds of upsetness. And what am I actually gaining from that? Nothing. So I realized time is so precious to me that spending my time on that without any gain is just an absolute waste of time. And I used to be a little bit of a half empty person. I used to be very realistic, like very much grounded in, like in life. And yeah, I just got more difficulty. Work is hard, life is hard. It became like that, and until I changed, and I did become it was that moment, I think, of realization that we are making choices of how we spend our time. And I'm not just talking about physical time, as in, I'm going to do the dishes now and clean the car and, then do the laundry and then sit down and go to work. I'm talking about how we spend our mental time. Because even if we are sat there drinking a cup of coffee and we can say to ourselves, we're not doing anything, we're doing something. We're spending mental time on something. And most of the time when we sit down, we have a moment to pause, we might be thinking about the bills, or thinking about the problems, or thinking about, various different things, or engaged in mindless gossip or terrible news. Let's put the news on. Oh my God, like, I'm sure everyone heard here, I think you're all in England, about this terrible incident that happened at this Taylor Swift dance recital, where somebody went in and stabbed all these children, which is horrendous, but when we really pay attention to our mental time, and we may see ourselves really coming to the realization that we are not spending a majority of our mental time in the positive because of the impact of things around us. So we have to, and that is a glass half empty kind of attitude. So we have to try and switch into the glass half full. And again, I'm not saying we need to find the bright side of what happened to those children, or the bright side of what happens to war. I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about our own internal mental world and what we choose to focus on, what we choose to absorb our time on. And, like, for example, if we're talking about the war, like, are we going to sit there and just focus constantly on this horrible acts of genocide that are happening right now? Or are we going to focus on how are people getting aid? What can I donate? What can I do for these people? That's the kind of like really crap circumstances, glass half full, half empty attitude. Nikki said absolutely awful news, but I've not read about it, or I find I absorb the emotion too much and it makes me upset. I know, anything to do with kids, totally. It was really, really shocking. It just came on the news here. They were like running it all day. I turned the news off as well, because it's very, very hard not to focus on those things. But when you try to turn it into, because a lot of people are like, well, this is happening and I can't stop it, and this is the way the world is and stuff like that. But it takes one person to make that change. And it becomes like this ripple effect. So when you have these circumstances, people are like, how do I deal with this pain? How do I deal with this frustration? How do I deal with this sadness? It then becomes, well, how do you want to deal with it? Do you want to waste a lot of emotion, mental energy, mental time, emotional time, just being absorbed in the pain? Or are you going to decide and make that decision, like, is there anything that I can do about this? And really, if there isn't anything you can do, you've got to let it go. Or if there's nothing that you want to do, you've got to let it go and apply your mental time into something else. Because we have to spend most of our mental time in that state of abundance, prosperity, love, and maybe you can think to yourself, well, maybe there's something I can do out of love. Maybe I can pour love onto this situation, or maybe I can pour love onto this scenario. And that's kind of how I go about things. And I don't necessarily say to myself, I'm going to try and find a positive out of this, but I say to myself, is there anything that I could do that is even remotely positive that could help or support in that situation? Hannah says there's usually something that vibrationally we can put out into the world. Yeah. And don't forget as well, like any thoughts and feelings that you have is creating a vibration, like Hannah just said. So, it's all about awareness. All of this week, opposing mindsets, how we feel, how we think, is all about awareness. It's about being truly aware of what's happening and not going through this mindless Groundhog Day, day in, day out, oh, got to get up, got to get the kids ready, got to do this, got to get to work, got to da-da-da, and then by the time the end of the day comes, if we sit and think about our gratitude, sometimes we can't even remember half the stuff that we did in the day because it's just so autopilot. That is being out of awareness. When you can step into awareness about your day, and this eventually becomes your autopilot, eventually. But you've just got to be aware, check in with yourself. How am I feeling right now? Is what I'm doing good for me? Is what I'm doing making me happy? Is what I'm, and sometimes it can just be neutral, and that's fine too. If I'm just sitting here and I feel indifferent and I'm feeling neutral, sometimes I ask myself, okay, well, what can I do to take me out of this neutral and make me a little bit more joyful? Or do I even need to come out of this neutral? Usually what I do is I go and do a meditation, or I go and do a paraliminal if I'm just feeling this neutrality. But neutral is not bad. Neutral is just neutral. And oftentimes when we're in that neutral mode, like we talked about yesterday, we're in the Amazon is delivering mode. Neutral just means you're not clinging on to something and looking for something and, attaching yourself to something. You've let it go because you're neutral. So neutral isn't a bad thing. But always I try to keep the awareness of how am I feeling right now? What's consuming my thoughts right now? How can I turn this around right now? And I used to do this a lot when I remember in England, I had a lot of things going on, car payments, mortgage, council tax, bills. Honestly, you even pay for the TV license in England, pay for the TV. So I was consumed a lot about this, and all I would, honestly, it consumed my thoughts a lot about, oh, I've just paid that bill, waiting for the next one now. And lo and behold, the next one will come in. I seem to just have a lot of bills, and that was what basically my life was, just paying bills all the time. And I took my awareness out of that. In fact, I took my awareness out of it so much that I don't have a lot of bills anymore, even though I have 5 kids at this point and a couple of houses that I take care of and pay for, and I don't think about the bills. They're not in my awareness anymore. So I think that it really is about seeing, am I seeing the glass half full? Am I seeing it half empty right now? Am I focusing on the negative? Or can I focus on something I can do? And if there's nothing I can do about this situation, is it a good use of my time to be sitting here focusing on it? Because remember, whatever you focus on, you bring to you. You attract it to you because you're focused on it. We are very godlike creatures. We have been made in the eyes of God. I'm not particularly religious, but whatever you want to call God, the universe, we are made to be creators. And we're here to create. And when you think about it, everything came from a thought. Everything came from someone's imagination. Towns, cities, buildings, theatre plays, books. It all started in someone's imagination. So be very aware of where you're resting your thoughts throughout the day. And eventually, you will really be able to master this skill to the point where you really don't have that many negative thoughts, because you have trained yourself so well to not give them energy and give them power. They're still there. They still need to be there, but you're not fueling them, as opposed to when you're sort of flipping it on its head and you're constantly thinking, is there anything I can do in this situation? Can I make this better? Can I change it? Can I do anything? No. Okay, well, I need to let it go. It's like, it's not your battle. It's not your fight. It's not something that you want to be involved in, and that's okay. And that's a choice. And it's okay. All your choices are okay. Never feel guilty for them or bad about them or anything like that. So, glass half full, glass half empty. Try to be aware of your thoughts, of your world, of the things around you, and say to yourself, is there a way that I could approach this differently? Is there a way that I could think about this differently? Even if it's down to some tiny detail of you're thinking, oh crap, that bill's come in and I don't have the money to pay for it right now. Flip that. Say, I'm so excited that the money's going to be there to pay that bill and I don't have to be concerned about it. I'll just go about my day. Because if there's nothing you can do about it now, that's the best course of action for you to do. Just tell yourself it's done. It's there. It's being paid. Amazon are delivering. Okay. All right, guys. Well, we will wrap up this week of Opposing Mindsets. Tomorrow we are back here. We're doing our messages for the week ahead, our oracle messages for the week ahead. So if you've got a burning question that you want to ask or you want to answer to, please think and ponder on that before tomorrow, and we'll see what comes up. But in the meantime, do get your journals out at the ready. We are going to start stepping into our accountability today, and I will see you back here tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me. Before we begin, don't forget you can join me live online inside Virtual Co-working Space at www.virtualmissfriday.com/VCS. If you enjoy this session, give it a like. I'd love to hear from you, so write me a comment. And so you don't miss any updates, don't forget to subscribe. Let's begin. So now we're going to look for the positive with our gratitude. First, we'll spend 1 minute thinking of the day before, thinking of all the things that happened, reflecting on work, interactions, relationships, memorable moments, and more. Now you'll write one thing down minimum that you're grateful for. You can, of course, write down more. Something good, something that went right, a small moment or a big win. The more you search for things to be grateful for, the more you will experience things to be grateful for. Now we're going to read out your goal. Make sure your goal is written down in a journal or somewhere you can easily access it. Read your goal now, ideally out loud, and commit to this goal. Believe it will happen. And by reading this daily, the universe knows clearly what your goal is, and the things begin to shift in the direction of your goal. Follow your instincts when this happens by taking action. Now you need to see your goal in visualization.
Spend this minute thinking about the goal in your mind. See yourself taking steps towards the goal, or even better still, see yourself having already achieved the goal. Close your eyes and go there. Step into the feeling, step into the place, step into the accomplishment. And finally, it's time for your most important task. Set this task for today and make it relating to your goal. This could be something small like sending an email, recording a video, or making a phone call, or it could be bigger. Either way, one task a day is one step forward, and those steps will add up. Do what you can from where you are now. Set the intention, and the action will carry you towards your goal. Well done you for completing your daily co-create session. Have a fantastic day ahead, and I'll see you next time.